So my name's Forbes Sang. I was born and raised in Oakville, just a bit outside of Toronto, and came to Toronto about 6 years ago to live here. And yeah, I primarily paint and take photographs, but I also am interested in ceramics and sculpture, something I'm hoping to explore in the future a little bit more. But my main practice, I went to school for photography and graduated from OCAD doing that in 2021.
Oh, recent.
Yeah.
Relatively recent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, another cool. Your name is amazing.
Thank you.
I'm gonna name my son Forbes Sang Clark.
Oh yeah.
Does your name have like any meaning or special? I'm sure it's special. Yes. But
Yeah. It was actually my grandma's last name,
Okay.
and she's Jamaican Cuban.
Oh, okay.
And she was born in Jamaica. But yeah, it's her family's last name, and then Sang is my grandfather's last name, and that's the Chinese part of my family, so Jamaica Chinese.
Okay.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Jamaican Chinese.
We're gonna touch on that, but
Yeah. Okay, cool.
so when did you notice that you were a creative person or had a knack for creativity?
It's a good question. I think, like, I grew up around art all the time. My mom was a daycare provider and still is, and she kind of like raised me in that setting, and there was always time for crafts, and I think every kid is kind of exposed to that. But my mom was an artist and painted growing up, and I was exposed to that as well, and my dad went to OCAD. My mom went to Sheridan. My dad also went to Sheridan for a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of seeing that growing up, really being exposed to it kind of made me want to do something like that. But I feel like I really got to explore my kind of creative side when I got a camera for Christmas. And I think I was about 15 years old when I got a camera. And that's when I started like really looking at things differently, trying to take more and more photographs of people and places. And that kind of turned into what it is now. And I kind of consider myself like a multidisciplinary artist. Yeah.
That's cool. And that's also interesting too. One of the things that I've noticed about doing things like interviewing artists is that I was asking like, when did you know, or if anyone else in your family had that, has this same kind of talent or eye for the arts, and it's very rare that both parents have the skill or the aptitude for it, but they went to like a higher educational level to pursue it.
Exactly.
Just go deeper into their interests. So that's amazing. So one of the things that I also notice with this is when people say they want to be an artist, any kind of artist, normally there's pushback to fear, like you're never gonna make any money for yourself. Especially with like you're letting us know about your Caribbean background as well, and it's like you mad.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, you know what? Like, I haven't received that as much as like maybe I should have. Everyone's just been always super supportive. I think there's been concern for sure. And you know what, that's been raised, but I think doing what I'm doing and being able to have shows and things like that right out of school has kind of given me some strength and a bit of a, you know, like, okay, like, let's see how this goes. And and I think there's different ways to be an artist and to make it work. Like, I'm working full time. But yeah, like, it's just as long as you have some sort of support, then you can go through with it, I think. At least for me, that was the case. If you don't have support, I'm sure people go through with that too.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more rare to have support than not. Yeah.
Well, like you said, sometimes there's a persona of an artist who you're just walking in the street, dancing to the beat of your own drum, but like you said, you have a full-time job.
Yeah.
After that, as you could see, you start your other job of creating art, and I think that's sometimes what our people in our lives, our parents or family members, they're worried that you're just wandering aimlessly, but clearly you have taken on the responsibility to take care of yourself and pursue this passion as well. So that's interesting, and I think a lot of artists probably need to know, like, you don't have to just quit everything. Your art, sometimes the path, normally from what I'm learning, people do have a day job and they find the time to do this when they're not working. So that's cool.
I mean, living in Toronto, right? Like, you're gonna need to.
It's not cheap.
Yeah. If I dropped everything, I don't think I'd be here right now.
No,
And
I'm glad that you said it as an artist, that you're kind of like killing that narrative. You can work and do this. Find the time to do both.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that I learned about you, and you mentioned just off camera, it was you just recently graduated from OCAD and you're now going to pursue your MFA.
Yeah, exactly.
So how has the school experience been for you? Because I've met a lot of artists who start out in school and then they leave school for there's a lot of reasons, but they leave. Explain, or just maybe tell us how your school experience has been. Obviously, it's been pretty good because
I'm going back. Yeah.
So how's that been?
Like, my experience at OCAD was great. I think I met a lot of cool people, and it really exposed me to like what it could be to be an artist, or like how artists are in the real world, and it's not just what you are seeing, on the internet, just people just in their studios all day. That would be amazing. I would love that, but that's not something that I find feasible for myself right now. And the one thing I did see was my professors, and those were practicing artists as well. And I was able to understand that, being an artist doesn't just mean that you're in the studio all day painting or taking photos, developing work. It also means that you're able to like teach others and, bring up a generation in that field. That's to say that, art school isn't necessary, I don't think, for everyone. I just think it kind of taught me like that I could go and pursue other things while being an artist. And teaching is something that I've always really been interested in. That's one of the main reasons why I'm going back to school, is to get my MFA so I can teach at a higher level, and that would be great in a few years. But yeah, I think art school taught me, if anything, concept, and how to kind of categorize my work and create bodies of work. That wasn't something I was used to. I was mainly just taking photos of people and not really having much of a story behind it. And school taught me that, work should have some sort of meaning behind it. And that's when I started exploring myself a little bit. And I liked that idea of having community around and just having people to feed off of. I found that really beneficial for my practice, at least. Yeah.
I think that's crucial, of having a community around you of people doing similar things. That helps keep you motivated and probably keeps you in school.
Yeah, exactly. And like once once you lose that too, like if you kind of strive in that environment, then once it's gone, it's gone. I ended in a year that was kind of crummy for a lot of people, for lack of a better word. But yeah, I graduated online. Like I didn't have a big show at the end of the year. It was all online. So I kind of feed for that, and I kind of like want it all the time. And so that's a big kind of draw for me to go back to school, is to have that environment and community to kind of feed off of again.
Yeah. And where are you going to get the MFA?
I'll be going to NASCAD in Nova Scotia. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. So I got to read this question because it's a long one.
Yeah.
So your last solo exhibit, Playbook, had work that focused on Black athletes and the relationship with the viewing white audience and reporters. With the reporters, this is now kind of with the reporters, there are times where we feel that narratives that are created may be race related. Explain how you look at race and incorporate race into your work.
Yeah.
The importance of like addressing that, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I grew up in a mixed household, mixed race household, and I kind of grew up seeing both sides, and I saw that there was an audience and that it was primarily white, and it's been that way for a long time. And that's kind of where race comes into play in my work, because there's some sort of guilt within myself with my work, and that's where I come in with these gray figures showing both white and black, but there's sort of a blueness which indicates a sadness to them. That's where that kind of grayish blue color comes in. But yeah, it's always been a focus of mine. Even though I've idolized a lot of these people, I've always wanted to understand what it means to be kind of a role model within the media, and be someone that is held at a higher level, and what that also does for communities. For instance, the bobsled painting, right? Like having that become a movie, and what that does, and how people just, associate Jamaicans as being a Jamaican bobsled team, and being like, that's crazy, like how did they do that? Stuff like that, I think definitely categorizes people, but I think it's important to recognize these stories and kind of show like a truth to them as well. And even for me, like I grew up seeing all of those Disney movies and all of those, athletes being held at a high level, which is great. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I think there is some sort of connotation with it that you get when you're seeing that. Yeah, and I really wanted to display a lot of firsts, a lot of people that kind of were the first in this category of theirs within sports, specifically for the show. But yeah. As you mentioned first, like we're looking at, was this Oliver Lewis? Oliver Lewis, yeah. The jockey piece. I'll insert it in. Yeah. And funny enough, I took a course in college. It was like a sports history type of course, and to my surprise, a lot of the jockeys were predominantly black when it just started in the first derby. And I believe also from the Caribbean, with a lot of Caribbean background. So it's interesting, and just looking up, I noticed the Iverson piece that you have with the Iverson in the middle with the white hands, and just some of the narratives that came along with being Allen Iverson. And yes, at times he probably played up to stereotypes, but he is who he is. And it was just like, I think this one's called practice. Yeah, exactly. I remember that very vividly when that was actually happening. And to know like the backstory of
what he was going through at that time. And he was the MVP of the NBA, and I think he also had one of his good friends that was murdered.
I believe so, yeah.
At kind of roughly the same time.
Yeah.
Just going through a lot. And clearly, as good as he is, practice is important. Kids who are watching, listen carefully. But Allen Iverson could miss a practice.
Yeah.
And he'll be all right.
Was able to. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So it was just an interesting time how they painted him as like this part thug, part lazy person, not a team player. So yeah, I'm glad that your work can address some of these things and give both sides. Yeah, because practice is important. As you know, this is a practice that you're doing, a craft that you're constantly working on. So I'm glad that you're doing that as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too to like paint figures and have people come in with a narrative themselves and look at something and maybe get something from it, you know. And for you knew this story, right? And I think that's important. And I knew myself, I knew the story, and that's why it was important to me to kind of paint these figures. And some of these stories, you know, I'm just learning still.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I think that's important to just kind of brush up on knowledge of who people are and what's my own history, basically. But yeah.
So we both have Jamaican backgrounds, and I always love to find another person with that.
Yeah.
Most of the people that I interview lately have been from West African countries.
Okay.
So I'm always happy when I find someone, a fellow Jamaican.
Yeah.
So I believe you also had a recent trip to Jamaica.
We did.
And how did that trip to Jamaica inspire you? Inspire some of your work here?
It did not.
Or future work?
Future work, I would say, maybe. It kind of took me back a little bit. Being proud to be Jamaican, of course I am, but at the same time, there is a sadness with it. I went with my family, and we went to where my dad grew up. On one of the days, we stayed on a resort, but my dad grew up in Kingston. And he grew up in kind of a better part of Kingston, but still Kingston. And he, just seeing all the people there and seeing the people that were at the resort was kind of, you know,
contrast.
It displayed me, basically. And I thought that was interesting. But we also had a really great tour guide that kind of talked to us about what Jamaica is. And right now, it's kind of a business. And the business is tourism, right? And that kind of it holds a lot. And that really interested me because there's a lot of work to be done there because we're kind of taking a step back if we're really, you know, diving in deep here. Most of the people that are going to Jamaica are white, and most of the people that are staying there are also white, right?
At the resorts.
Yeah. And so, you know, we're taking a step back in where the people that are working there are black and the people that are working there are Jamaican, and that they come in to work every day. They're not living on the resort, and you know what? It's reversed right back to where we started, you know, and that really took me back and made me think about travel, made me think about slavery just made me think how this is kind of still going on in a way. And it's not like it's in disguise, it's blatantly out there. And there's a lot to be said on that subject. But that really interested me.
Okay.
And I think there's some work for me to do personally about that and for me to think about. But yeah, that was the main kind of takeaway for me about certain ideas that I'd be interested to explore. Kind of maybe look at the resorts and work with the resorts if that's a possibility in the future. I think that'd be great. But yeah, it just kind of opened my eyes a little bit to tourism.
So after you graduate, which will probably be, you said, maybe 2 years?
Yeah, the master's is 2 years, so I'll be
26,
7, yeah.
So after that, you graduated top of class. Will you come? Where do you see yourself after? Like you mentioned teaching.
Yeah.
But do you see maybe? I find a lot of artists now are trying to go to the States.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Paris. Maybe the Louvre. Paris.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm really focused on the master's itself and just kind of learning all the skill sets I need to do the jobs that I want to do, such as teaching.
Yeah.
But the goal is to kind of create connections to people and hopefully come back to Toronto to teach. Maybe hold some of my own teachings, wherever that may be. But I don't know everything. I'm still pretty young. I recognize that. And yeah, I'm just really excited to learn. I'm kind of just want to be a sponge and take everything in. But yeah, in a few years, I hope I'm teaching and I hope I'm creating. That's really the goal. Just making submissions, getting my work out there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Here, we'll wrap it up there.
Okay.
Where can people see your art or find you and connect with you?
Yeah. Just my name on Instagram.
The coolest name ever.
Yeah. Forbes Sang. And then my website is also Forbes Sang, and you can reach out via email on there, which is forbes@forbesang.com. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.